What's going on, guys? This is Chandler Smith, and today I'm going to share with you the 8th investment that I ever made. And this was actually a combo deal on 2 fourplexes in one purchase. So I'm going to talk with you about how I was able to find that deal, how I was able to work them down on the price, and then go in and raise rents, add value to the property, and put myself in a situation on these 2 fourplexes where they're now cash flowing a ton. And my goal in this video is to show you how to negotiate, how to look at a fourplex so you can know if it's a good investment, and then how to get the confidence to be able to pull the trigger. So let's jump into it. Here is a picture of these 2 fourplexes. And the way that I found it was actually pretty cool. I had a realtor slash wholesaler that was out looking for me, and he knew what I was looking for. And he connected me with this lady that hadn't listed it on the MLS, but was looking for a buyer. And the situation was unique because she had just found an off-market buyer that had bailed on the deal. And so already she was dealing with some pain and struggle and frustration because she thought she was gonna close on these and the deal didn't go through. And actually didn't go through because there were a couple quirky, weird things with the property. Issues that a first-time investor would go in and say, holy cow, I don't have the guts to take this on. And we're gonna talk about those because having a situation like this where a deal had already fallen through and they already had these issues that had been pointed out to them in an inspection made it so they were a lot more vulnerable or ready to negotiate. So what I actually did is I reached out to the person who had done the inspection on the deal before it had fallen through. I paid to be able to get that inspection so I could see all of those pain points that were already an issue with these fourplexes. I was then able to lock up the fourplexes at a price that was already low, but then I made sure that the purchase of the property was dependent on an inspection that I was happy with. And the reason that I did this is I already had gotten the price down to here, but I also already knew the pain points with the inspection. So now I could go in and say, all right, I found this, and this. These are causing me to say that the deal we originally agreed on is not where I need it to be. So I put together the laundry list of all the things that I needed changed, and I made it really big. I made it really dramatic. And it's not that I was being dishonest because these things were there, but they weren't necessarily a deal breaker for me because I knew we could work with them. These were things like a crack in the foundation that just looked scary. It actually didn't cause any structural issue. On the exterior, a lot of the exterior stucco was starting to fall off that just made the property look like it was in rough shape. There were a bunch of things like these that for me, I knew weren't gonna cause these huge issues. However, I still sent in professionals to say, hey, this is an issue. This is something that needs to be fixed. This is how it's gonna be fixed. This is how much it's going to cost to be fixed. And by using all of those things, I was able to take her from an already good price and negotiate even lower on the price. So I'm in a good setup. Now, what made this so cool is now, for the current rents, I was already in a great position on this property. But I also knew that each one of these tenants were in a place where they'd been there a long time. She'd owned the property for 10 years plus, and I knew that there was going to be a lot of wiggle room on raising the rents. When you raise rents, it's not something you can go into the tenant and say, hey, I know you're halfway through your lease, we're gonna bump your rents up $100 a month. You don't do it that way, but you can find different ways to approach them by saying, hey, when your lease ends, we're gonna raise your rents to here. However, if you're willing to sign a new lease with us, we'll only raise them to here. Now what that does is it starts to get people thinking and saying, all right, I can either go with the higher rents now and stay here long term, or I can start looking at a different place, and that gives me the ability to know the tenants that are going to be leaving, so that we can prepare for any corrections we want to make in the unit so we can justify that rent raise when we put a new tenant in, and we're prepared for it when that tenant's lease runs up so that we can immediately get someone else in there. Now I was not only able to lower the purchase price because of the issues, but I was also able to go in and up the return, up the cash flow, because we were able to increase the rents, because we knew in that area what they were currently renting out was way below market value for even the current state that the property was in. Now, that didn't mean we didn't make changes. We still went in and changed a couple of things that we had put on the inspection as an issue. However, a lot of the things that an inspector finds aren't necessarily things that immediately need to be taken care of, if taken care of at all. And so you use them to get the purchase price lower. However, you've got to run your own numbers on the side of the money you actually need to spend to get the property to where you can rent it where you want to. And if you're doing that correctly, you're going to save a ton on the purchase. You're not going to spend a ton on renovations or fixes, but you're going to be able to raise rents a ton so that your cash flow increases and you put yourself in an incredible place on this new property. The other thing that was really cool about this property is because it was two properties in the purchase, we still had to do two separate loans, but the seller looks at it as a package deal, which gave us even more flexibility in negotiating down on the price. Because we had the comparison of, hey, this one has this issues, but this one has this issues. However, if we buy both of them from you, we're gonna have to take care of everything. What if you just lower the purchase price to this? We didn't get everything we asked for, but we asked for way more than we needed to get to be stoked on the purchase of the property. And so you've got to know where your numbers need to be. And if you don't know how to run that equation, you can check out my other video on how to run the numbers, and I'll make sure I put a link up here in the top. The biggest lesson I learned from this property is a lot of times you're gonna run into properties with different issues that you haven't ever seen before. And for me, I've seen a lot of weird stuff because this is one of my later purchases, and I've obviously looked at a lot of properties along the way. However, the crack in the foundation in the basement made me really nervous. And so I even called in a professional engineer to come look at it and tell me, hey, you're okay on this crack, you're not gonna have issues. Now what that did is that was something that ruined the deal before. But for me, it didn't ruin the deal. However, it did help me to be educated and to be able to use that crack to lower the purchase price and get into a property that was an awesome deal that shouldn't cause me any issues because of the crack, but now is cash flowing like crazy. And I took the time and spent the money to get that engineer in, to learn more about how a foundation works, and that in turn helped me pick up an incredible deal, become more educated, and overcome one of those worries that earlier on in my investing, it probably would have scared me away because I would have said, wow, this crack, that's terrifying, they've done some weird stuff here, I just don't even want to mess with it. But I promise you, if you're one of those investors that's willing to overcome those issues and learn how to mess with some of those trickier situations, that's gonna give you the ability to work some incredible deals and put yourself in a place where you're cash flowing like crazy. So if you're looking at properties, just remember that even if you don't buy the property, it's a learning experience. And if you're spending money on an inspector or an engineer or some other specialty to come in and double check, just to make sure that things are good or that you're willing to take that on, even if you don't go through with the deal, that learning experience is so valuable. So don't look at it as wasting money. Think of that spending as an education so that when you do find the right deal like this one, even though I spent money, I still got the deal. But I'll tell you, I've had other deals where I've spent money to look into a problem and then it didn't help me enough in the negotiation to do the deal, but that isn't wasted money. That's just something that helped me learn something new and potentially could have put me in a place like this deal did, where you end up with an incredible deal. Now, if you enjoyed the video, I've made a video for every single investment I've ever made, from my first one all the way up to my most recent one. And so if you enjoyed this video, make sure that you like the video and subscribe to the channel, and go check out this playlist where I talk about every single deal. Because whether you're looking into a house, a condo, a duplex, a fourplex, an eightplex, a 24plex, I've done all of them, and I've looked at even more deals outside of the deals that I've done. I'm really hoping these videos will help you to create a huge passive income for yourself. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day.